Okay, it looks like we're live streaming, so we're good to get started.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to call this meeting of the Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee to order. Members of the public are advised that individuals in the media may be audibly and or visually recording the meeting. Please note that while this meeting is open to the public for observation, any member of the public wishing to provide comment on any of the agenda items are encouraged to contact Cultural Heritage Planning staff or may choose to give a delegation to the Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee. Thank you. Please note that quorum is present. Beginning the meeting at 5 o'clock. All right. Are there any declarations of interest today? Seeing none, we'll proceed. Okay, so on to approval of the agenda. Citizen members, you have before you the agenda for the meeting. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented? I see Andy and I see Graham. Okay. And is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that motion is carried. Okay, on to approval of the minutes of the previous meeting from August 20th, 2024. You have those minutes in front of you, and may I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented? I see Katie and I see Matthew. Thank you. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that motion is carried. Carol, I'm not sure. I assume you can hear me. We can't see you, and it would be helpful if you could turn on your camera, if that works. Okay, well, rest, please.
Yeah, it's just that I'm pretty
Oh, it's
sick
coming. I
today.
hear you.
Yeah, I'm just very sick today, so I don't really
Aw.
want my camera on.
Okay, I hope you're all right.
And
Thank you for attending, even in sickness.
thanks.
Okay, on to the heritage permit applications. So we have 3 permits on the agenda this evening. The first one is heritage permit 2024-027, and that's 6 in Dundas, in Hamilton, sorry, Dundurn Castle, which is a part. Involves planting of 23 new trees on the west side of Dundurn Park, adjacent to the parking lot. Am I still okay here? Everybody can hear me? All right. In area 1, at the old driveway entrance, 3 trees be planted. In area 2, old driveway and 20th century roadway along Coach House, 6 trees are to be planted. And in area 3, York Boulevard road allowance, up to 14 trees will be planted. Do we have a representative to speak to this application tonight? Carolyn. Okay, thank you. So Carolyn, the subcommittee has been provided with a summary of the application. If there's anything else you'd like to share or like to describe in your application in more detail, please do so. And there may be some questions from the committee before we proceed.
Okay. There's no more detail than what is there. I'm working with forestry, and it's basically driven by the council priority to make sure that tree succession is prioritized, particularly in our parklands. So
Okay.
were there any specific questions?
Yeah, so let's take a look. Anybody in the committee have any questions for Carolyn? I don't see any. Oh, wait, there's one from Andy. Andy, please go ahead.
Hi, Carolyn.
Hi.
Just curious on, is this replacement of trees that have come down, or is this just additional trees placement through the park area?
So it's replacement of some that have come down in the past, but not recently. So there's a few areas where we have gaps, and it's replacement of about, I can't remember, the 6 or 8 of the Siberian pear, which are an invasive species that is along the York Boulevard roadway, and they're in bad shape. So those will be a swap out, a removal of those trees, and an introduction of some native species to try to mimic to match the trees across the street. So there's a kind of an alley formation along York Boulevard with the cemetery on the other side. So what we plant, we're going to try to match what's on the other side in size and coloration. But the other ones would just be additions to fill in gaps from, trees that have been removed over the last 20, 30 years. There's some spaces there.
Okay, great, thank you. I always figure planting any trees is is a benefit, so I'm just curious if it was a replacement or additional, but thank you very much. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions from the committee? Okay, all right then. May the staff please put up on the screen the proposed conditions. Okay, thank you, Don. So this looks to me like standard conditions that any minor changes to the plans and elevations following approval shall be given to the director of planning and chief planner for approval prior to carrying out the application. And that it be completed within 2 years. 2026, yeah, so 2 years, which is the standard condition as well. So nothing special here. Is there anything that anyone feels they would recommend adding? I don't think there's anything that we've talked about that was recommended by the committee. Okay. So may we have a mover and a seconder to recommend approval of heritage permit HP 2024-27, subject to those recommendations. And I see Graham and I see Andy. Thank you. And is there anyone opposed? Seeing and hearing none. Carol, for example, Carol, if you have any oppositions at any time, please just speak up, okay? Since I can't actually see you. But seeing none at this point, that motion is carried. So thank you very much, Carolyn.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, on to the next application, which is HP 2024-028, 125 St. Clair Avenue, Hamilton, which is in St. Clair Avenue Heritage Conservation District, Part 5 property. So it is for planting a replacement tree, a native tulip tree in the front yard. Is the owner or applicant here to speak to the application?
It's Emily. I'm trying to get my staff this morning, so I don't think they are coming.
Emily, your sound is cutting in and out. I couldn't hear what you had to say there.
It's another forestry application. I don't think they're coming tonight. It is overall very simple. I'm happy to answer any questions. The tree planting is taking place technically on city-owned property within the right-of-way.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? If Emily can answer. Yes, Graham, please go ahead.
Well, from what I understand, this is a direct replacement. Tree for tree, species for species.
This tree was removed some time ago. I can just check the note sheet. I had done an approximate time based on aerial imagery that we had available. So there's nothing there right now, but the owner was in touch with forestry and they selected a tulip tree, which is one of the trees that forestry offers. And yes, so it is in theory replacing something that was there that was removed many, many years ago.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Graham. And Matthew, you had a question as well?
Yeah, also a question for Emily. Was it discerned from those satellite images whether or not, or whether in discussing with the applicant, that the old tree was also a rose tree as well? Or sorry, not rose tree, tulip tree rather.
Love tree.
Yeah, it wasn't, I don't know if forestry has that in their records. But they didn't mention that it was like a direct replacement. I think it was the owner's preference that they selected this tree, but there was no, within the Sinclair Avenue Heritage Conservation District, there's no like prescriptions of what type of tree it is. But I think there are in the Sinclair Boulevard. So as far, the owner is allowed to choose whichever tree they so please in this area, as long as forestry is okay with it.
Great, thanks, Emily.
From
Yeah, I had a question actually, just along those lines. So in this kind of thing, when it is a Heritage Conservation District, do they, I don't know, have to also get input from their neighbors, or is that never done?
I don't think there are any policies that point to neighbors needing to approve it. I suppose it's always a nice thing for them to do. But I think in this case, there's no, it's coming, but there's no tree bylaw. I don't know if that has anything, if that will result in neighbors needing to be consulted. But technically it is the city's property. So it's the city, but it kind of appears like it's owned by 125 St. Clair Avenue. So I guess it's kind of like a courtesy that the city asks the owner what their preference is.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Any further questions from the committee? All right. Oh, Andy, yes, please go ahead.
I'd just like to mention about the tulip trees. I think most will know this, but it's not an overpowering tree. It is a native tree. It grows quite well in these conditions. After 3 years of planting, it does have a tulip style flower on it in the spring. But it isn't overpowering as far as size. It does grow to a substantial size, but it's not anything like a Norway maple, which is going to be an overpowering massive tree. But it's quite appealing from the street. So I've used several on projects that I've worked on, and they've done very, very well, and including on my property. So I thought I'd just make a comment. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Now that's interesting because there's one around the corner from me and it's absolutely gigantic. Like it's so tall, but it's way up on a hill, and so, but I mean, it's also probably, 100 years old, so.
Through the chair, they do grow quite large, but they don't have the, if you want to call it, the meat in the limbs, like some of the larger trees that people get nervous that they're going to fall over and crush something, like kind of thing. So that was that's kind of my point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, may we see the recommended conditions then, please?
There they are, and they're just the standard conditions for this one.
Okay, so that's fine, exactly as the previous one. Okay, may we have a mover and a seconder then to recommend approval of Heritage Permit 2024-028, subject to these staff recommended conditions. And I see Andy. And I see Katie. Okay, thank you. And is there anyone opposed? Okay, seeing none, that motion is carried. Okay, thank you very much. And we'll move on to the final application for this evening then, which is HP 2024-026, 24 Union Street in Waterdown, which is the Mill Street Heritage Conservation District, Part 5 property. So this one is more complicated. Replacement in kind of the wood board and batten siding on all exterior elevations, including installation of new Mybeck board and batten style wood siding with a 9-inch wide vertical boards and 1 5/8 of an inch vertical battens, 4-inch by 4-inch outside corners, 6-inch top and bottom cords, 2-inch by 3-inch window sills, and 1-inch by 4-inch trim, all in citadel blue solid stain color. And also recapping the window sills and trim with new metal. Replacement in kind of eaves trough and downspouts on west elevation. Replacement of the 4 contemporary wood windows on the front, that is north elevation, with vinyl hung windows, and repairs as needed to the remaining windows, including patching, priming, and painting. Is the owner here to speak to the application today? Okay. I can't hear you. I see your screen. Face. Is that Deb and Grace there? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, Karen, Deb and Grace are the owners, and I believe Jerry is here to support them as well. We can see, Deb, I can see you trying to unmute yourself. But yes, and I'm also here for backup. But whoever feels like they physically can jump in because they have mic capability, or whoever wants to answer between Deb and Jerry, feel free.
Okay, that would be great. So yeah, would anyone like to speak then on behalf of this application?
I guess I would just offer if there's any questions. I think the way you've read it is pretty clear to me anyways, but if there's any questions, I'd be happy to provide clarity or answers.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that, Jerry. And both welcome to the committee. I appreciate you coming. And maybe Deb, if you do have something to say and you manage to get your thing, please feel free to hop in as well. Okay, so are there any questions then on this application? Look into the committee for this. Andy, I see you. If there's others, we can just please put up your hand, but Andy, please go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair, just curious on the board and batten that's there now. By some of the pictures, it certainly looks like it is wood. I'm just curious on the width of the board and batten as it sits currently. If anyone would know that.
I believe it's between 8 and 9 inches currently. What's there now, I believe, is just strips of wood applied onto like a plywood membrane. It's pretty, it's very shoddy. It's also rotting pretty substantially. So, but the look of it, I believe, is close to 9 inches. So I've selected the closest prefabricated vertical board that is produced by Mybeck to sort of match the existing look.
Okay, thank you. Just personally, I've actually used Mybeck in projects myself. It's a very good product. The colors bake right in, and they usually have colored nails when you're installing it and what have you. Are you getting it professionally installed, or is the homeowner installing it themselves? Do you know?
So I've hired, I'm offering to hire Sunburst Exteriors. His name is Dan Van Vuren. He's a professional siding installer. So even though I'm looking after the project and installing windows and whatnot and helping him, he is the main installer of the product.
Okay, and by through the chair, so obviously he's a professional installer. He will be strapping it rather than you indicated that it's just nailed onto plywood, whatever you need, ventilation behind wood, or you have all kinds of problems. So it will be strapping before the Mybeck goes on?
That is correct.
Okay. And regarding the windows at the front, is are they in so bad repair that they can't be repaired?
Yeah, so they're just, I don't know the date on them, but they're old. And they're just so worn. So, and I'm concerned about the extent to which they're rotted in. So the existing covering of the house is so rotted. There's been exposure, and those windows don't look like they're in very good shape. I mean, I suppose we could try to salvage them and repair them, but to me, in my professional opinion, they should be replaced. And I know there can be some discussion as to whether those replacements need to be wood or not. I have looked into, I've connected with it escapes my mind at the moment, the joinery window company in Hamilton that makes heritage style replacements. Lower City Joinery, I believe it's called. I've connected with them, but their pricing, we're looking at $25,000 for like 4 windows. It would basically eliminate the possibility of doing the project because it's just way out of the range. Whereas I think the vinyl product that I've gotten from Dayside to price it out, Dayside Windows in Brantford, I think it's about $2,500 or something like that to do those 4 windows. So that's doable, and it's an excellent product. And we're basically would be going up against the wood jamb extensions are existing on the inside of the house, and then we would finish it with wood trim on the outside, probably like a 1 or 1.5 inch wood extension, and then the Mabec wood trim that we've planned for. So we're really hoping we can get that we can use vinyl replacement windows for the single hung windows on the front of the house. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And one more question through the chair.
Yes.
Have you? I understand that to create the windows through a joinery company that's actually going to manufacture it can be very costly. Have you ever thought of just going to a manufacturer that actually produces custom-made wooden windows, like a Norwood or a Colby or something like that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I got the quote from Lower City Joinery just last week. And I was floored when I saw the numbers, and I thought we should certainly be able to do better than that. So I've reached out to 4 companies: Lowen Windows, Anderson. They make good wood windows. Dashwood. I've reached out to them, and there's one other company. But anyways, I haven't gotten any information back yet. So,
Okay.
for example, 2 of them have said they'll get back to me within 5 business days, which is more than a week. So I haven't heard back, and I'm trying to get quotes to a more reasonable rate. If we can get if we can get windows for $5,000, I'm sure, we're fine. But this $25,000 range is it's just simply not something we can work with. So.
No, that's certainly rich. But I was just curious on the wooden windows. They have a 15-year warranty on their finishing and what have you. So it's not complete maintenance free like you have with vinyl, but it's the appearance is quite good. Okay, that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Are there any further questions? Yes, please, Katie, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask another question about the windows. So I just wanted to confirm that the replacement ones, whether they end up being wood or vinyl, like whatever sort of preference we have there, I just want to confirm that they're going to be of the same style, like you'll get them with the 6/6, like mullions and sort of in keeping with the current style of those windows with the replacements.
Yeah. So, yes, right now they're single hung windows, which is what we would be replacing. So they'll function in the same way. The size of them will be the same.
Right.
Um,
And will
yeah.
you have sort of the interior mullions? Like right now, it's sort of the top looks like 6 pieces, and then the bottom looks like 6 pieces. Sorry, and maybe Emily. You
Yeah.
can-
There are existing dividers on the glass of the existing windows, and our preference is to forego that. So that might, well, it will change the appearance. And this is just the preference of the customer. We'd like to forego the grills if that meets your approval. If we have to, we would certainly go with grills, but it's becoming, I guess, more and more. It used to be very common. My whole house has grills, but we're looking at replacing all our windows. There'll be no grills. It's just, it's more contemporary, but I understand it's a heritage project. So we're sort of at your mercy there. Our preference is to forego the grills.
Can I ask Emily, do you have something to add to this? Or is this a question?
Yeah, I did have something to add. I just wanted to note that in the photos that we provided in the note sheet, there's a elevation from 2020 when we did some heritage inventory work in Waterdown, and that image has grills on all of the windows. But then when you look at my site visit photo from September 6th, there's only grills on the second story window. So it looks like whatever was there was removed at some point. And also just to note that sort of based on my site visit and also chatting with Alyssa Golden and looking at the style of the wood windows that were there, we don't think that these are the original wood windows that went with the house. We think they are some sort of, and I think Jerry, you also advised Deb and Grace that was your thinking as well. So there's somewhere between when the house was constructed and now someone replaced the wood windows, and there's been some sort of faux grill attached to them. And so and we don't necessarily have a historic photo showing whether they had grills or no grills. So I think in this case where the applicant proposing to have all of them just one style is very cohesive in their approach, but hopefully that answers your question a bit better.
Go ahead, Andy.
No, you can go ahead, Karen. Sorry.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yeah, no, I had just a clarification. So the picture that we have in the notes from September 2024, and that shows the 3 ground level windows that do not have the dividers and such. So have those been replaced already? Is that work done?
Those windows have not been replaced.
Okay, so this is all 4 of those are still planned to be replaced. It's just whether it's
Correct.
final or
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. All right, Andy, please go ahead.
Through the chair, it was more just clarity again through some comments that Emily had indicated that the upstairs had mullions or light divides. There is a picture here that actually shows the ground that has light divides in it. So I'm just a little confused. Is that window that's just by itself? It shows the mullions on the ground floor, but which would look like the ground floor because you can see some rocks. I'm just curious on, is the ground floor have mullions or does not?
Well, so the photos that you are seeing that have the mullions in them, those were provided by the homeowner. But when I was on site last week and took the photo of the front elevation, there were no mullions. So whether we've maybe mislabeled it and it's actually another elevation, I don't know if Jerry or Deb can comment on that, but based on my site visit, the front 3 ground floor windows do not have mullions.
Okay, thank you, Emily. And just one more question through the chair. It's for this style and age of home, mullions are usually prevalent on the windows. So I don't know, and I guess this is a question through staff, is if one's been replaced without mullions, but others have it, where originally all of them did have it, which way do we go? Do we just say that we can get rid of the mullions and have clear windows, or have the mullions? It looks like one of the pictures, it's inside mullions, like inside the glass by the looks of it. It's hard to tell for the upstairs for one of the pictures. But I'm just curious through staff is for the age of this building, do we go along the lines that we should be trying to preserve the appearance with the mullions, or because one or two have been replaced without mullions, then all of them can be replaced without mullions? I guess that's a question to staff. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. I think in this case, because we don't have that more historic photo to sort of demonstrate what was originally there, even though you're right, in keeping with the time period, maybe that is what would have been most prevalent. And also just noting in our own review of the property, it's a very kind of unique looking dwelling. It doesn't necessarily can't be categorized into a specific style kind of. So I think for this one, in staff's opinion, creating the cohesive primary elevation is most important. So I don't think we wouldn't be pushing to have the mullions, in our opinion.
Okay, thank you, Emily. That's all I have.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Emily. Are there any further questions from the committee? Okay, thank you. May I ask for the conditions to be put on the screen, please?
Okay. And there's just one additional condition for this one. Condition number 1.
So I guess we're asking the applicant to consider whether, make that decision, right? Which way do they want to go with it, with the mullions or not? And whichever way it is, it should be consistent, correct? So, and that whatever the decision is, be chosen, be submitted to the satisfaction and approval of the Director of Planning and Chief Planner prior to starting these alterations. And everything else is the standard conditions. And also, yeah, okay. I mean, we didn't talk about the color at all, but it did seem reasonable, the color that was chosen as well, in keeping with, the historic look of the house. It seemed reasonable, so, okay. May I have a mover and a seconder then to recommend approval of heritage permit HP 2024-026, subject to those two conditions? And I see Andy and I see Katie. Thank you. And is there anyone opposed? Okay. Seeing none, that application is, or that recommendation is carried. And so thank you very much, Deb and Jerry, for coming in, and staff will follow up with you on next steps then. Appreciate that. And so that's it for you. So you're welcome to excuse yourself at this point. Thank you very much, and good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, and so we're on to point 4 of the agenda, which is other business. If there is is there any other business? May I ask for that? Not seeing any. Okay. If there's no other business, may I have a mover and a seconder to adjourn today's meeting? I see Graham, who wants to go to sleep, and I see Matthew. Lovely, thank you.
No, back to the pub.
Get out. Okay, is there anyone opposed? Okay, seeing none, that motion is carried. All right, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you showing up and asking all the questions and yeah, appreciate your input. So thank you very much. Thank you, staff, also very supportive as usual. Our next meeting is scheduled for October 15th. Oh, Carol, yes? You're just waving? Is that a wave?
I just wanted to say goodbye to everybody.
Okay, listen, you take care of yourself. All right.
I will. I'm
We'll
lying
just-
down. Okay, great
Good.
meeting. Thank you.
Good night, all.
All right, we'll see you next October 15th, 2024. Thank you all. Good evening.